Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a few different horror films that have been banned. Some have been released in certain countries after lots and lots of cuts that were made to the movies, but the films that I am going to be talking about today are the total uncut versions. Some which you cannot find anywhere, and some places you can. All of the films on my list today I have watched personally at some point in my life. Some I've regretted, others not so much. It's always the way when someone tells you that a movie is banned. You immediately want to watch it and find out why. So get yourselves comfy and let's talk about 5 horror movies that are banned. Disclaimer warning, I am going to be talking about some very graphic, sensitive topics in today's video. Please proceed with caution. Murder Set Pieces. Murder Set Pieces is a controversial horror film that was released way back in 2004. Directed by Nick Palumbo, the film has gained notoriety for its graphic violence and disturbing content. The story follows a photographer who becomes a serial killer, engaging in some serious, brutal acts of violence against women. The film is known for its explicit portrayal of gore and its unflinching depiction of brutality of its central character. Because of its graphic nature, Murder Set Pieces has faced bans in several countries, and it has been the subject of significant criticism from various circles. Despite its limited release and the backlash it received, the film has garnered a cult following among certain horror enthusiasts who appreciate its commitment to shock and horror. The film was banned in the UK by the British Board of Film Classification due to the film featuring scenes of SA, torture and murder, including the, terrorization and killing of young children. The BBFC determined that issuing a certificate for the film, even with, adult-only rating, would pose a risk of harm and be unacceptable to the public. I personally have watched the uncut version of this film around about 10 years ago, and while I didn't find it the most interesting or best horror movie that I've ever watched, there was a certain scene that has absolutely stuck with me all these years later. The scene that I'm talking about involves the serial killer, and he ends up killing this mother, and he then goes into this young baby's bedroom because he can hear the baby crying. Now, bear in mind, this is a baby that's aged around about 18 months old, if I was to take a guess. It's very, very young. This serial killer guy walks in, and the baby is in its cot, screaming. Now, the serial killer, he is covered in blood because he's just killed the mum. He then proceeds to pick up the baby and covers the baby in blood because, he's covered in blood, and the baby is screaming at the top of his lungs. It then cuts to the baby running down the corridor in the house, crying, looking for Mummy. The baby then finds Mummy, and Mummy, of course, is dead, so Mummy's dead body is on the ground sitting upright against a wall, and the baby cries and then hugs Mummy's dead body, wanting her help. It's a horrific scene to watch. I can remember feeling quite sick when I saw this. I mean, to have a baby that young do a scene like that is not okay. A baby that young cannot act. That baby was really, really scared. So those terrifying screams, they're real. And after watching this film just once, I have never ever gone back and rewatched, nor do I ever, plan on going back and rewatching. Sometimes you don't quite understand why a film is banned. Well, on this occasion, I feel they really did get it right. Have you guys seen Murder Set Pieces, the uncut version? Let me know in the comments box below if you have. Cannibal Holocaust. Now, while I can understand why this film did get banned, it's not as bad as the previous entry. Cannibal Holocaust is a 1980 Italian horror film directed by Ruggero Giotto, and I don't know if I said that right, but you get the gist. It became infamous for its graphic depictions of violence, torture, and SA, along with its controversial premise and execution. The film follows a crew of documentary filmmakers who venture out into the Amazon rainforest to document the lives of a tribe of cannibals. When they go missing, a rescue team is then sent out to find them, leading to shocking discoveries about what happened because there is a tape that was left behind from the previous missing filmmakers, and then we end up watching and seeing what's on these tapes. The film's found footage style has influenced many later horror films, most notably the Blair Witch Project and others in, like mockumentary subgenre, which, there's plenty of them out there now, but back in 1980, this sort of thing wasn't around. Now, Cannibal Holocaust did face significant backlash upon its release. It was banned in several countries around the world due to its graphic content. Some of the graphic violence included scenes that depict real animal cruelty, such as the killing of turtles and other animals. It led to calls for censorship. Now, the director even faced legal trouble with authorities questioning the authenticity of the film's gore, prompting him to prove that the actors were indeed alive after the movie's filming and it wasn't like a real murder spree. The film has gained a cult following over the years. I mean, I actually don't mind this movie. It is horrific, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Some critics and scholars have reevaluated it as a commentary on violence and the media's impact on society, leading to discussions about, its artist's merit. The film does remain highly controversial to this very day, and it's often cited in discussions about censorship, artistic expressions, and I suppose the limits of on-screen violence. The Last House on the Left. The Last House on the Left is a 1972 horror film directed by the amazing Wes Craven. It was controversial and it did face bans in several countries due to its graphic content. The film follows two teenage girls who are abducted, essayed, tortured, and murdered by a group of criminals. The criminals then unknowingly end up seeking shelter at the home of one of the girls' parents, and they end up extracting their brutal revenge. The film was banned in the UK and Australia for its extreme violence and disturbing scenes. It was part of the infamous video nasties list that was made in the UK, and this list included films that were deemed too obscene or harmful to the public. The film was not actually fully released uncut in the UK until 2008. Wes Craven intended the film to be a commentary on the graphic violence depicted in the media during the Vietnam War, but it was often misunderstood as endorsing the violence it portrayed. In 2009, a remake of The Last House on the Left was released, which introduced the story to a brand new load of generations, but nonetheless, the original remains a landmark in horror cinema, both for its shocking content and its commentary on violence and morality. I can always remember seeing the trailer for this movie, and it had this famous slogan, "Always remember, it's only a movie. It's only a movie." Now, I'm not really a fan of horror movies where somebody is SA'd and is sort of glorified. It always makes me feel uncomfortable and not in a good way. It's similar to I Spit on Your Grave, which is a very similar film and another film that I don't really enjoy watching. The only difference is with that one and this one is that, one of the victims comes back to extract her revenge, but yeah, not one of my favourites. A Serbian Film. Oh god, where do I start with this one? A Serbian Film was released in 2010. It is a horror film that has garnered significant controversy since its debut. The film is known for its extreme and graphic content, which include themes of, sexual violence, child exploitation and disturbing imagery. It follows a retired porn star who is lured into participating in a bizarre film project that spirals into a nightmarish experience. Now, similar to murder set pieces, I do not plan on ever going back and rewatching this movie. This is one of those movies that I do kind of regret watching in its uncut version. There is so much wrong with this movie, I don't even know where to begin or what I can even talk about. So, I don't know if I can talk about some of the scenes without YouTube giving me a ban, but there is one particular scene that I saw in the uncut version that I found sickening, and it involved a newborn baby. That is as far as I'm gonna go with that one. The film is often described as a commentary on the political and social landscape of Serbia, particularly in the context of the trauma and the suffering experienced during the wars. Due to its explicit content, a Serbian film has faced bans in several countries, including Spain and New Zealand. Many viewers and critics have described it as a tasteless and, it's just exploitive, sparking debate around censorship, and the limits of horror cinema. And I'll be honest with you guys, this is one of those few horror movies that I would never recommend to anyone. Just stay away. Hate crime. The final movie on my list today might not be a movie that you've ever even heard of. Hate Crime. It is a controversial horror film released in 2013, directed by James Cullen Bressak. The film follows the story of a family who becomes the target of a hate crime when they are invaded by a group of masked men who hold deep-seated prejudices. Now, the narrative unfolds in a found footage style, a bit like Paranormal Activity and the Blair Witch Project. So this enhances the sense of realism, because us, the viewers, we witness the harrowing events from the camera's lens perspective. The film delves into some really intense themes of violence, discrimination, and the impact of hate. Critics have pointed out that hate crime pushes the boundaries of horror, exploring very, very uncomfortable and sensitive topics that resonate with, societal issues even to this very day. Some have praised its raw approach and commentary on bigotry, while others find it excessively violent and it's just too much. This polarizing nature has contributed to its ban in various regions. There are a few scenes that really stuck with me after I watched this, and some of these scenes involved the teenage son being forced to have sex with his mum in front of the other family members in the kitchen, I think it was. Later on, the same teenage son has his eyeballs pulled out of his head, and then he is left to wander around the house screaming out for help because he can't see anything, while these invaders are laughing at him. And then eventually this son ends up in the oven by accident, he can't see, he's feeling around, and then one of the invaders closes the door of the oven and turns it on, and then cooks this teenage son in the cooker. It's an absolutely horrific movie to watch, and I don't think this movie has actually properly been released anywhere since it was made. However, you can find it online, because that's where I found it all those years ago. But be warned, guys, this is not for the faint-hearted. It is not a very nice movie, and there will be things that will stick with you for the rest of your life. Whenever somebody mentions that a horror movie is banned, curiosity always pops into our brains. We want to know, why is this movie banned? What could be so bad? Well, the movies that I've talked about on my list today are 5 very different horror movies, but they all share a common theme: violence. I am a huge fan of horror, but even I agree that sometimes films can go a little bit too far. Let me know in the comments box below what you thought of today's video, and let me know if you would like to see me make a part 2, because I know that there are many more banned movies out there to talk about. Okay then guys, thank you all for watching today. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe out there, and I will see you all again very soon.